Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
With a history that dates back to the early 1930s, the Sheridan WYO Rodeo has become one of the top PRC rodeos in the West. And the WYO, which captivates Sheridan during the second week of July each year, is not resting on its laurels. We'll visit with Zane Garstad and Nick Siddle about the Sheridan WYO Rodeo, its history, its success, and its future. But first, Wyoming-based filmmaker Gregory Nickerson chronicles the Miss Indian America pageant, which was launched by Sheridan residents in the 1950s to combat discrimination against Native Americans. The story is told through the eyes of Miss Indian America title holders who held a reunion in 2013, serving as grand marshals in the Sheridan WYO Rodeo Parade, commemorating a legacy of bridging cultures.
We are honored today to have the Miss Indian Americas come here for a reunion and be the grand marshals of our parade. I'm going to introduce Arlene Wesley. She was the first Miss Indian America crowned in 1953. She is here today.
Well, the American Indian Days began with the thought of healing between the non-Indians and the American Indians back in the early 1950s.
They called it All-American Indian Days, with the Miss Indian America pageant as a focus.
Sheridan was the Indian capital of the world for a while.
When I came in the 60s, All-American Indian Days was huge, and it seemed like the grandstand was packed for the coronation.
The parade was full, the town was full. It was great.
The purpose and the role of Miss Indian America was to bridge the gap between the cultures.
And Miss Indian America lives in many other pageants. It has never gone away. It has never passed on or anything.
All-American Indian Days and the Miss Indian America pageant came back to Sheridan, if just for one weekend in time.
I was just very emotional going down the street with people yelling, "Welcome home."
This is a sisterhood that has always been here, but now we're together and we can actually see each other and reach out and touch each other.
Who could have thought that it would still live today?
I think the message of Miss Indian America is as valid today as it was 50, 60, 70 years ago, and I suspect will always be. We're all in this world together, and we are all brothers and sisters, and that, to me, is the message of Miss Indian America.
Let me quickly tell you the story, the history of this Miss Indian American project here in Sheridan, Wyoming. Right after World War II, I came back from Europe fighting for freedom and brotherhood of men throughout the world, only to find right here in Sheridan, Wyoming, a town of hatred. They don't like Indians. They have signs on their store doors, no Indians or dogs allowed. After having fought 3 years in Germany, trying to make America a good place to live, I come back to find a place right here in my own Crow country. Hatred, bigotry.
I think some of these situations probably occurred throughout the West. But I mean, it's a reality that Sheridan was one of the cities, but I can't address whether Lander or Riverton or Buffalo. Not everyone in Sheridan was as racist or demeaning or whatever to these people. You can't make everybody fit the same mold.
There's a good man here whose name was Howard Sinclair. But he's a newspaper columnist and goes by the name of Nick Yoke Jones. He was a humanitarian. He didn't go for the hatred thing going on here. Started writing good articles. We better be nice to these original Americans, the original owners of this beautiful land. There was a rodeo going on up on the hill. The time came for the selection of Miss Rodeo Queen, Lucy May Yellowmeal, a Crow Indian. She got on her horse and rode in front of the grandstand, and believe it or not, the audience selected her.
Friends, neighbors, it's unanimous by popular acclaim. You've chosen our new rodeo queen, Miss Lucy Yellowmeal.
With that event, the stage was set and the teepee was lighted for a new powwow between Indian and non-Indian.
Lucy came and spoke and talked about what it was like to be a Crow and how it felt to be unwelcomed here in Sheridan.
Within a few months, Lucy's efforts combined with those local citizens like Howard Sinclair changed the mindset of the local populace.
The signs on the doors said no Indians and dogs allowed were taken off, thrown away.
For its success in improving public relations, the town of Sheridan received 2 distinguished awards, one of which Lucy traveled to Washington, D.C. to accept on behalf of Sheridan.
Congratulations.
I am proud to have had in this project to build a better understanding between the white and Indian races. We all hope the goodwill which has been accomplished will last and that we shall work together and make America remain strong and great.
In that time frame, in the 1950s, you have your significant Supreme Court decisions such as Brown versus the Board of Education. So you had an awareness, I think, on a national front of differences in races.
Some town fathers scratch their heads and say, maybe we have an idea here for starting recognition of Indian womanhood.
This Howard Sinclair, he said, what we ought to do? We ought to have a Miss Indian America, like they do in Atlantic City. Miss Indian America.
This is where he got the idea to promote peace and friendship and unity and promote tourism for the town of Sheridan.
Every person who worked on this board, and they felt so strongly about Native Americans to share our culture and our heritage.
All Indians took over Sheridan, the Indian hailing town, Indians from all over the West came there.
It was a gathering of nations.
There were teepees up at the fairgrounds, and there was so many activities for people to participate in, art shows, athletic competitions, and I just remember the number of Indians that I had never seen before, mostly the Indians from the Northwest, and the beautiful floral beadwork.
The interdenominational church service was a big part of that, and it was a very moving and emotional because it basically blended a lot of faiths together.
We had over 100 girls wanting to be Miss Indian America. It's that popular.
Being Miss Indian America was the most humbling experience I've ever had, to be able to represent Native people all across the nation.
I'm always shocked and amazed at the places Miss Indian Americas have been, and I always think what a great history.
I think it ended in general as finances here in town, here in Sheridan. I think because I know there were always financial difficulties.
I think there was probably a lack of interest of people. They moved it to Bismarck, North Dakota for 5 years. That pageant leased the rights to Miss Indian America, and when that lease was up, the All-American Indian Days Board did not renew the lease with the Bismarck Board, and so the pageant ended.
In the 1980s, there was a real lull in Native participation. Since the mid-2000s, we've had a huge resurgence.
And next we have Vivian Arbizo, William Adupi, Michelle Portwood, Sharon Marcom, Sarah Ann Johnson, Claire Manning, Dina Hergara, Susan Arquita, Melanie Talmadge, Geraldine LeBeau, and Wanda Johnson. Thank you all for coming. We are honored.
It was like, welcome home. We're so glad that you're back. And that meant something that only can be heartfelt. I had several women who came up to me following the parade and said, we missed us. We missed the girls. We missed the celebration. Thank you for making it happen once more. And I thought that, wow, people still remember this.
Look at all that God had created here and all the good that was in people to bring people together here.
From the Minnesota Sioux, 1981, Geraldine LeBeau, and 1989-91, Wanda Johnson from the Navajos. Ladies and gentlemen, part of the heritage, part of the tradition that is the WYO. Would you please tell them thank you, Miss Indian America
I am just so thankful for the rodeo planners and for everyone who thought to bring us in, as a part of that, and to understand the history and the impact that Lucy had in terms of her queen position and title. The relays were the most important or the most exciting event, and the fact that the event was first and it got everyone on their feet, it just made me recognize the importance that the non-Indian and the Indian together in a rodeo situation, it works.
When we came back to be the grand marshals of the parade, I really, really enjoyed being in the parade because it was like I was a celebrity with all these other ladies. We're going in these carriages down the street and people were applauding and welcome back and smiling big and taking pictures, children waving. I really liked that. But the thing that really bothered me about that year was a float that was in the parade. Came out in burlap loincloths, red paint on the face, multicolored feathers, whooping it up on this trailer.
Are they dressing up like Indians because they love us? Are they doing it because they're making fun of us? That's the question that I have, and it's a conversation that I'd like to have with a person. That's one of the things that I did continually as Miss Indian America.
Miss Indian America pageant was an interracial project, and it was a cooperative venture in public relations and race relations, and certainly is a message as relevant today as it was 60 years ago.
It allowed relationships to develop, friendships to develop. Even to this day, there are many doors that were opened for these young ladies who have been Miss Indian America.
If there were more activities, more events that developed like this over the years, I think we would have a better understanding of one another. Whereas if we don't communicate, we don't have anything like this. There's healing when there's communication, when there's relationships established, and which I think we did in the last few days.
I always think about that quote from Will Rogers, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there.
It doesn't matter what race you are, there is a lot of work to be done, and through this, I think we can make a difference.
We'll just have to see how this plays out. You know, the story of Miss Indian America, the first 2 chapters have already been told. Who knows what the next, 3, 4, 5 chapters will entail.
Still today, I'm 70 years old, and I walk into a community and say, oh, she was Miss Indian America. And I say, yeah, 100 years ago. But it's they still introduce. I'm still Miss Indian America 12. She's still a Miss Indian, forever princess, I guess. But people still say, well, that was quite an honor, wasn't it? And yes, it was.
Our thanks to producer Greg Nickerson and the former Miss Indian Americas. But now it's time to talk rodeo. A rodeo that's quietly, or maybe not so quietly, becoming one of the great American rodeos, the Sheridan WYO Rodeo. And we're pleased to be joined on Wyoming Chronicle by Zane Garstad, the president of the Sheridan Wyoming Rodeo, and Nick Siddle, the vice president of Sheridan WYO Rodeo. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
To WYO Chronicle.
Thank you.
This is a great rodeo. Let's talk about where it's been. This is the 85th rodeo, been here since the 30s. It's come a long way, Zane.
Absolutely. 1931 we started the rodeo. Apparently they did it for economic development because, as Tom Ringley says, the author of the history of the WYO Rodeo, there wasn't much going on. You could shoot a pistol or a gun through town and it wouldn't hit anything. So they really did it to try to create some economic development, and here we are 85 years later, and we've grown substantially, I would say, even in the last probably 5 to 10 years, where the rodeo's really taken on a life of its own and seems to get bigger and better each and every year.
It's been here for a long time. It's becoming really a part of Sheridan. It's almost the heart of Sheridan this time of year.
You know, all the class reunions, all of those kind of things are basically centered around rodeo, and we don't really say we have the rodeo, but in Sheridan they refer to it as Rodeo Week, and it's a whole week of activities that involves the entire community and really pulls our community together, and certainly is really good for all the businesses in our community, and our townspeople just get behind us, and it's just our big community event of the year.
I just to add to what Nick said, we've been approached by many people that many times people who are from a particular area come home, and they come home for the holidays. They come home for Thanksgiving and Christmas and those types of big holidays, but people in Sheridan come back for rodeo. And that's a real compliment to what we're doing as a community and how we all work together and how we celebrate our area.
Let's talk about some of the numbers of the Sheridan WYO Rodeo. Almost $300,000 in prize money. Mm-hmm. Nearly 700 cowboys and cowgirls participate. More than 20,000 people come and watch Sheridan Rodeo. Mm-hmm. Can it get better? Can the Sheridan WYO Rodeo grow? What are your plans?
Oh, absolutely. Maybe just a little bit of history. When I got on the board 22 years ago, we had $40,000 in total payout, and now we're at almost $300,000. So that just says what we've been able to accomplish because we have great sponsorships. We have great support not only locally but national sponsors like M&M's, like Coca-Cola. So we really do think that we can grow our rodeo even more, and we're looking at expanding the grandstands, which probably Nick will touch on. But we really need, in order to grow, we're going to have more seating capacity. But I think once we get those built, we'll be able to fill.
Nick, let's talk about that a little bit. We're in the Sheridan County Fairgrounds, the home of the Sheridan WYO Rodeo.
Right.
What are the plans facility-wise?
Well, we have a committee right now, our long-term capital construction
committee, and we're looking at several different potential plans for putting in some new seats, perhaps seats right here over top of the bucking chutes, where people could have really great seats looking right down on the venue, and a lot of different ideas. We do have a little bit of traffic flow problem, and we're looking at potentially putting in either an overhead walkway or perhaps a tunnel. I mean, we're progressive in trying to figure out what we can do that's best for the facility. And of course, as you said, the facility actually belongs to the county, so anything we do, we have to work with them on. And we have a great working relationship with Sheridan County and the Sheridan County Fair to get things done and share a little bit in the cost, because in the end, they also benefit from anything we do to their facility. So, you know, anything we can do to make the facility bigger, better, and more friendly for the community, we're going to jump in and do, because like Zane said, the only way we can actually grow our rodeo bigger, we're selling it out, so we've got to have more facilities.
One thing you touched on, Zane and Nick, you can chime in here too, it takes a lot of volunteers. And if you're going to grow, probably more volunteers than across the state and across the country. Yeah. For some organizations, it's hard to get volunteers. It's hard to reuse the same folks over and over again. How does that work here in Sheridan?
Well, we have a Spurs group that is one of our main volunteer groups. That's a group of local people in the community. And if by the way, if you're seeing this, you're interested, go to our website. There's a way to find out how to get into our Spurs group. And that's a group of volunteers that is tremendous at showing up, and like you said, we have a real core group that shows up for everything, but we have some people who show up to help with one event or two and do a lot with us. We also have as you watched our rodeo tonight, we have a tremendous group of flag girls that we're calling the WYO Wranglers, and they are completely all volunteers too, and we're really trying to build that group to get a lot more visibility in the community and do some more events, and that will not only be a good volunteer group for us, but help grow our rodeo and help be a very visible presence.
So
I just wanted to add to that. We really understand also the importance of working together, not only just with, like, say, a rodeo group, but our entire community. So as an example of that, 3-4 years ago, we would produce our own rodeo program. Then our local paper, the Sheridan Press, would create their own rodeo tab. Well, we looked at it a couple years ago, and they were exactly the same publishing piece. Mm-hmm. And so he said, well, let's not duplicate, let's work together, and let's make this good for everyone. And so I think that we have really benefited from our partnership with those folks to provide quality product and work together.
Go ahead.
We've also worked a whole lot with our local Chamber of Commerce and our Downtown Sheridan Association to help them. They not only help us promote our events, but then we help him. Our travel and tourism group here in Sheridan's been great to work with us and take over some of our events and help us with our advertising. Absolutely. And do those kind of things.
Just before the relays tonight, a very special way to present the colors came into the Sheridan WYO Rodeo. Talk about that just a little bit.
Dana Bowman, he is a military veteran, double amputee. He's a great motivational speaker. He came in, parachuted in with, basically his parachute's the American flag. I think there were a lot of tears, lots of pride, lots of, a great night for America and feeling patriotic as he came down and landed, hit it right in the middle of the arena. And what a special thing for us, for our community, basically, seriously, for this country.
A 40 by 60 banner of the American flag out there in the arena. It took us a big volunteer group just to hold that flag up out there in the arena tonight.
Boy Scouts raced out and
you bet.
Great job.
And it was a great tribute to our country and for our community.
I have to say that we were fortunate enough tonight to have the governor, Matt Mead, here for the rodeo. And so we had the mayor and the county commissioner, and we were standing just a few feet over here, and we were all like little kids watching him come down. So it doesn't matter what your stature is, it was just a cool thing to be in this country and witness something like that.
So the great rodeos, the Calgary Stampede, Greeley, Reno, Sheridan's almost in that set of names?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we continue to, our reputation continues to improve and increase, and I think that we're probably in the top 30 of rodeos right now in North America, and we will continue to grow a rodeo as much as possible. So it'd be interesting to talk to some cowboys out there, but we're starting to get a reputation like those rodeos as well.
I had several cowboys tell me in the last couple days this is their favorite rodeo of the year, not only because we put on a great rodeo, but because they love to come to Sheridan, they love the community, and it's just, you know, a great place to come. Bring your family. A lot of them bring their family and stay for several days. It's right after the 4th of July, and they've been on a really hard run, and it's a really nice place for them to come and have a good time and a great rodeo.
I think Sheridan is just a really great community. So it doesn't matter. I mean, of course, we want you to come during WYO Rodeo Week, but you can come here any time of the year and you get to experience a beautiful setting. But what really makes Sheridan is our people. We have some of the best people, I think, in the state. We're a little bit biased.
Absolutely.
But we have great people who welcome people into our community, who are very hospitable, and it just makes Sheridan a very special place.
For the 85th time, the Sheridan WYO Rodeo. Zane, Garstad, Nick Siddle, thank you very much for joining us on Wyoming Chronicles.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.